There we go. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our Wednesday meditation gathering. I'm so glad you're all here to share this time together. This week we have Robert Perry, who's going to lead us in meditation, and then we'll have 20 minutes of silence. And after that, we're going to open it up for sharing, and we'll end at 10:45. Over to you, Robert.
Thank you. Great to be back. Feels like home. Today, I wanted to do a meditation based on a lesson that is beloved for many of us, I think, which is lesson 109, I rest in God. And before we do it, I want to talk just a bit about the concept of rest. I do this meditation periodically. I love it. And it's made me think about rest. We don't think a lot about the concept, but I think it would be a good preparation this morning to do so. To appreciate rest, we should think about its opposite because normally we're not in a state of rest. We're in a state of activity and effort. And that is all based on the concept that, which apparently seems to be true, that we are a separate self and we're in an environment that is not entirely congenial to us, right? It's not necessarily for our interests. To some degree, it's against our interests. And so to make our way, to get our needs met, to stay safe, we need to some degree to work against this environment, to wring out of it what it doesn't really want to give us, right? If you're hungry, you don't just have grapes dropped in your mouth, at least most of us don't. You have to go out and do things. You've got to earn money. You've got to, acquire the food. And so we spend our lives in this state of friction with an environment that is not really for our interests, at least not fully so. And that means we have to be active, we have to exert effort, we have to strain, we have to be in conflict and try to get the upper hand in that conflict. And we have to be vigilant, right? While we're in this environment, we're constantly vigilant for threats to our safety, even if those threats are very small things like insects. And so all of that leaves us in this state of basically being tired, right? We're constantly active and straining and vigilant because our environment is not truly for us. As a result of all that, we want rest. And rest is the opposite of that. Rest implies that you can rest because your environment is in harmony with you, at least to a large degree. You can rest because there are no threats to your safety. You can just relax because nothing at the moment is against you. And so the whole idea of rest, which of course is a concept of stillness, it's also an idea it's an idea of harmony and safety, right? We long for that sense that we're in a place that is harmonious with us, that is safe for us. And that's why rest is best done at home, right? Because your home is an environment you set up. It's set up to reflect your needs, to be in harmony with your needs, to not pose a threat to you. And so rest goes along not just with the notion of stillness, but also a notion of home and a notion of belonging. Now, I want to add a couple more wrinkles into the idea of rest. One is resting with someone. The best kind of rest, I think, is when you're resting with someone and that someone, if it's rest, is someone who feels in harmony with your interests. They feel like they're not a threat. They feel like you belong with them. Ideally, they provide even a sense of home. And all of that, the belonging, the safety, the harmony, the home, that's what's conducive to rest. And so resting with someone suggests that they are all that, that you are not in any kind of conflict with them. They are in harmony with your interests. And so let's go one step further, resting with God. If we can rest with God, that means God is in harmony with our interests. He's not a competing force. He's a friend. He's not a threat. He is safe. He's not an alien. We belong with him. He maybe even can be considered our home. And then the final step is resting in God. We can't rest in a person, can we? To rest in God implies that God is our environment, not just part of the environment. It implies that we are surrounded by God. We are contained within God, which means nothing else, excuse me, can touch us. The Course often speaks of us being in God's embrace. And so I think, well, at least this is all my attempt to describe what I find so attractive about the idea of resting in God. It's such an amazing thought to think of being surrounded in God. God is the only thing that can touch us. We are inside his embrace, and there we feel a sense of total harmony, a sense that he is completely in support of us and our interests, a sense that he is absolutely safe, a sense that we belong in him, and a sense that he is home. So all of that to me at least goes a bit towards capturing what seems so compelling about this concept, I rest in God, that God is the place where I can just completely unplug, because all of that, the harmony, the safety, the belonging, the sense of home, all of that is there in God. And in that state, because I am in God, everything else is outside. Nothing else can touch me. And I think we long for that pure rest after days and years of being in a boxing match with the world. We long to have that kind of rest. So, what I'd like to do is read some of the opening lines of Lesson 109, I Rest in God, and then guide us into a meditation based on that. And then we'll spend, as is typical for these Wednesdays, 20 minutes in silence, and Sharon can then ring the bell. So, Sharon, why don't you go ahead and ring the bell once I leave you all in the silence? Okay. So please go ahead and close your eyes and relax. Settle into a state of rest. Okay. I rest in God. We ask for rest today and quietness unshaken by the world's appearances. We ask for peace and stillness in the midst of all the turmoil born of clashing dreams. We ask for safety and for happiness, although we seem to look on danger and on sorrow. And we have the thought that will answer our asking with what we request. I rest in God. This thought will bring to you the rest and quiet, peace and stillness, and the safety and the happiness you seek. I rest in God. This thought has power to wake the sleeping truth in you, whose vision sees beyond appearances to that same truth in everyone and everything there is. Here is the end of suffering for all the world. Here is the thought in which the Son of God is born again to recognize himself. This is the day of peace. You rest in God. In him you have no cares and no concerns, no burdens, no anxiety, no pain, no fear of future, and no past regrets. In timelessness you rest, while time goes by without its touch upon you, for your rest can never change in any way at all. You rest today. And as you close your eyes, sink into stillness. So feel yourself sinking in to that state of resting in God, in perfect safety, without cares or concerns. And while you feel yourself sinking into that rest, feel yourself letting go of everything that is not rest. Try to keep your mind clear of any wandering thoughts. And from time to time, repeat that line, I rest in God. Whenever a wandering thought occurs, repeat it again. And each time you do, feel yourself sink more deeply into perfect rest. I'll leave you in silence now.
Open your eyes slowly and come back into the room. We have approximately 15 minutes left for sharing your comments and questions. If you'd like to speak, raise your hand, or you can use the reactions button at the bottom of the screen, and I'll take you off of mute. And if you'd like to ask Robert a question or comment with confidentiality, put your message in the chat function at the bottom of the screen, and I'll read it out. Linda.
Thank you, Robert. That coincides with what's been happening to me in the last few days. And my lesson today is the light has come. And they coincide absolutely spot on for me. I can't thank you enough. Thank you.
Wonderful. That's great to hear.
Kirsty. Go ahead.
Oh, hi, Robert.
Hi.
Just an observation this morning. I have a lot of trouble in meditation, keeping focused on what we're meant to be, meditating on. Like, for example, this morning I rest in God, and I find that my mind really doesn't want to meditate, and it goes all over the place, and sometimes I just don't enjoy the meditations as much as I could. And what you were talking about this morning, so beautiful. It really was, the idea of resting and, not being in friction with the world, but just resting and just accepting the world as it is. And this morning, I did something completely different than I normally do before meditation. I went swimming, and I did half an hour's swim, and I just got back just minutes before the meditation started, and I found that because of that, I think it must have been because of that swim that I did, I found that I was really, really able to actually relax and rest in God. I'm not sure if you have any comment to make on how perhaps some physical exercise before a meditation session can actually help you to get into it. I'm out.
Yeah, I think we all need to just over time learn what helps us get into it. I've never tried the do exercise first method. If that works, use it, take advantage of it. I think for a lot of us, meditating with others, or at least with someone else, that helps too. But what you're talking about in terms of focus, that's the perennial problem, right? The fact is that meditation, the depth of meditation, I think, is almost exactly correlated with the fullness of our focus, the completeness of our focus. We shouldn't kid ourselves that focus doesn't matter. It's kind of everything in meditation. And so if you find that exercising first, if you find that lighting incense, if you find that meditating with whatever you find helps you have that completely engrossed, absorbed focus, yeah, do it.
Thank you, Robert. There's something in one of the meditations that I do a lot, which says if you're doing this correctly, then you'll feel yourself being lifted up. And I've always thought to myself, oh, I must be not doing it correctly because I don't feel myself lifted up, and I wonder what that feels like. And today, even though it's not that particular lesson, I really felt myself being lifted up, like physically lifted up. And I think so that was an amazing experience of being lifted up. Thank you for that.
That's great. Yeah, that's great.
John, would you like to say something?
I think John.
There you are.
There we go.
Yeah, lovely. Thank you, Robert. That was beautiful and so peaceful, wasn't it? Peaceful. And what happened with me was that I reflected back to when I first began what I call the awakening, my journey of awakening. And I can remember talking to my lovely therapist, who's from Sausalito, California, and I kept saying to him, Maurice, I feel so tired. And I used to say to him, I feel soul tired, because I could not describe the depth of my weariness. And it was so deep, so profound. And now, having been with the course for a while, I realized it was all to do with all the conflict. I lived my whole life had been in conflict, attack thoughts, fear thoughts, thinking I was right and all the rest of it. So that when eventually I got to that point, that the course says that everyone gets to know there must be a better way, that was that tiredness. And now I suddenly realized I don't ever feel tired. I just fall asleep. I'm not conscious of feeling tired, and I'm pretty active, but it's that quietness, that stillness. And I realize it's the letting go of those attack thoughts, fear thoughts, and it's those that used to frighten me and make me tired. So that's a beautiful, all the words in that were beautiful, just to be able to listen and take that in. And it was beautiful, and a great reminder of the other line, the peace of God is everything I want. Mm-hmm. And it's all available to me. I'm the one that can choose it once I get out of the attack thoughts and the judging and the criticizing and the blaming and all of that stuff. So thank you so much for reading that so beautifully.
Yeah, I love the way you describe your journey, going from that deep, like, soul weariness to a sense of not being in conflict and therefore not being tired and having a sense of rest. That's how it's supposed to go.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Catherine, would you like to have a comment?
Thanks, Dan. Thanks, Robert. I just want to say, John, that's an aspiration for me, not to feel tired, but to just go to sleep. That would be wonderful. And it's sort of related to what I'm saying, really. Robert, I had an encounter with someone where I was feeling very much loving and accepting of them, and they were in a place of feeling that I wasn't. And in the process of sort of forgiving that, taking back the projection and knowing that as a part of me, I sort of gained even more clarity that at times when I don't feel worthy, I self-exclude from God's love. And I actually do this when I feel physically unwell. So at the time I most need to be held in love, I am self-excluding. And I guess I'm projecting onto God the experiences I've had, which are, at certain times, particularly when I'm not well or if I was unhappy, my experience has often been that certain important people in my life don't want to know. They want me to hide away. So I'm effectively, I think, doing the same thing with God. And I just wondered if you could speak to how to take the focus off me and put it on God and know that God, it makes no difference. Yeah.
Well, I think that our whole journey, you could say, it amounts to accepting that we are in God's love and everyone's in God's love no matter what, that's an eternal, unvarying state. But I think there are a lot of things along the way that can help with that realization, obviously. And for me, it just helps to remind myself that nothing changes in God's mind towards me, no matter what. There's a great sentence we're supposed to ask ourselves. It's in the beginning of chapter 10, the text, where whenever you feel threatened, you ask yourself, has God changed his mind about me? And the obvious answer that's supposed to arise in our mind is, he changed his mind about me because I spilled coffee or because of some trivial, silly thing. So I think just reminding ourselves that we are absolutely in his love no matter what, that he's not the kind of God to exclude us, to judge us. Um, I remember there was this terrific movie. What was it called? As It Is in Heaven, Swedish movie. And if you haven't seen it, please see it. The director is a Course in Miracles student and teacher over in Sweden, Kai Pollak. And he put a line in there from lesson 46 that was a woman in the movie says, God doesn't forgive, he never condemned in the first place. So like straight out of lesson 46. And what the director said was that he got more mail about that one line in the movie than the whole rest of the movie. And this was like the Titanic for Sweden, blockbuster record-setting movie. And I think that there's something in us that speaks to, a God who doesn't even forgive because he would not understand the need to forgive. And the more we can remind ourselves of that, I just think the better. I get a lot of comfort from near-death experiences, which are full of people having experiences of God appearing usually as a great light. And the God they encounter is absolutely a God who doesn't exclude, doesn't judge, always embraces. So I just think the more we can remind ourselves of that, the better, until it kind of, settles in increasingly.
Thank you. I mean, I've just had the experience myself with this person because the distress they were in no way changed the love and acceptance. If anything, it sort of brought out more awareness that I had that love and acceptance for them.
Yeah.
And now I see myself doing exactly the same thing.
Yeah. Well, the Course does say that as our love becomes more unyielding and consistent, we naturally conceive of God as being not too different from us. So you were helping your mind believe in a God who loves unyieldingly by doing that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, who has a, go on, Teresa, take yourself off of mute.
Thank you, Robert. That was wonderful. I so want to listen over and over again to the preamble to meditation, where you were giving us so many contrasts. And it really, really helps my mind to remember and think, oh my goodness, no, that's not God, and this one is. And it was very practical help for me. So thank you very much. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Oh, that's really great to hear. Yeah, I've been thinking, I didn't like put it quite the way I wanted to, but I've been thinking a lot about the rest thing for a few weeks or longer. It's like, aren't we all sick of being in this state of strain and contending with the environment we experience ourselves in? Don't we just crave that perfect rest with someone, and ideally with and in God? That's what we yearn for.
Dennis.
Thank you, Robert, for your introduction. It was beautiful, and you reminded me of things I'd actually forgot. Years ago, a couple of times, I had a beautiful experience in meditation with the being of white light, and I asked questions. And one of the questions was, where have you been all my life? I've been looking for you. And the answer back was, I've been here all the time. Where have you been?
That's great.
And it just knocked me to sleep.
Yeah, yeah. I think I've heard you tell that. What a profound thing. And that's very much like what you see happen with near-death experience encounters with God. People have this encounter and there is a great deal of light and an overwhelming sense of love, but often a dialogue. And in the dialogue, God comes off as authoritative, but incredibly loving and really intelligent, like super intelligent. Like the remark you heard was not a dull, thick kind of comment. It was a really intelligent response to you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Any more questions or comments? Okay, well, let's, David, did you want to share something?
No, I just remember the first one we did of these meditations, and you took it, Robert, and today was wonderful. A bit like Kirsty, I think that my mind jumps all over the place by outside influences when I'm meditating. But today I reminded myself of Eckhart Tolle and him saying words to the effect that you're doing it, whatever you're doing. And that kept bringing me back. And just one of my favorites is this one. Thank you, Robert.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's a beautiful lesson. I remember I was at a Catholic retreat center some years ago, and I was reading some literature they provided in the room, and it was from Thomas Keating, the late great, Catholic champion of meditation, which they call centering prayer. And in this literature, he was saying, well, the understanding of prayer in previous centuries, before whatever, I think he chose like the 16th century or something, was resting in God. And that's when I realized Thomas Keating, had been reading the Course, which he had, because it's a very distinctive phrase that you get from the Course. And it's such an evocative one. So I feel like we are blessed to have that lesson, because it speaks to something so deep within us.
Okay,
Hello.
the topic of meditation. Take yourself off of mute and express your appreciation to Robert. That was wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Robert.
Thank you.
Robert. Thank you, Robert. It's very lovely. Lovely to see everybody. Yeah.
See you, Robert.
Thanks, Robert. Thank you.
Thank you all. Great to be with you.
Thank you.